Welcome back to segment number 3. I'm Jennifer Fierro, your broad podcaster here in the Highland Lakes. Joined once more with Art Dlugach, the voice of the Llano Yellow Jackets. We've already covered the private six-man schools of the Highland Lakes Faith Academy and Smoking for Jesus in the first segment. Then we talked about the Marble Falls Mustangs and the Burnett Bulldogs in the second segment. This segment, we will talk about the Llano Yellow Jackets and maybe even the Mason Punchers a little bit, since Llano will be traveling to Mason on Friday night to scrimmage them. That should be a dandy scrimmage.
Yes, that's a great start for both teams. And Llano coming off an 8-3 season. The Mason Punchers have a couple of state championships, which they've won in the last 10 years. And so it has been a challenge in the past for Llano to play Mason, a smaller school, in scrimmage. I can remember a Mason interception in the dust of mid-August playing against Llano in a scrimmage and giving them fits. Now, the two teams have not played in quite a number of years regular season, but again, it should be a good one for a scrimmage, and that should start 6:30 or 7 o'clock in Mason at the Puncher Dome.
Well, I love the name of that stadium, by the way. And it is a dome, folks. It looks like the home section of the stadium is actually covered in shade. When I saw that, I was very envious of that. Very envious, because it looks like there is some shade out there at the Puncher Dome. Mason, what is interesting here is they run the wing T offense. So their top rusher, who was a sophomore last year, was the district MVP. He is back this year. Their quarterback is back this year. They've got a couple of core players. There's 5 returning starters on defense, 5 returning starters on offense. Obviously, since it's a 2A school, some of the same players start on both sides of the ball. So it doesn't sound like you get a lot of rest there in Mason. I am curious to see what the Punchers throw at the Yellow Jackets, because right now the Yellow Jackets have about 100 players, grades 9 through 12, who are playing football. The Punchers, I don't believe they're close to that number. I think they're in the 70s. I'd have to go back and check my notes.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, it should be a really neat and fun scrimmage. What are you hoping to see from your Yellow Jackets?
Well, I saw Llano play its intra-squad game last week and thought the offense did well. They were wearing white jerseys with black numerals, and the defense was wearing blue jerseys with no numbers. So I wasn't sure at first if I was seeing the number 1 defense or not. Well, I was. So there were some fine players on that side of the ball. 2 linebackers in Ricky Delatorre and District Defensive Player of the Year, Hayden Manahan, and then former linebacker, now defensive end, Jackson Ray. Isaiah Bush, safety, another name to mention, Fitz Kennedy, outstanding defensive player, linebacker himself. And so the defense did fine against the fine offense of Llano. Carson Kirkendall, the Jackets' leading rusher last year, with about just under 1,000 yards on the ground. He had a terrific 44-yard run. And Miguel Hernandez didn't break one, but he was chewing up the defensive line for 5 yards here or 7 there. So that was impressive. And Briggs Green at quarterback and Bryce Mize both had their moments. And Coach Green has warned me, do not say who is the starting quarterback is going to be. If you're going to do that, then make it your own opinion. So my opinion is the starting quarterback will be, so that's my starter for right now. And we'll just wait and see in a couple of weeks who that is. But it was just a kick to see the kids back on the field And you know what they say about intra-squad and two-a-days, you want to get out there and hit somebody else, and that's what we'll see on Friday night. So looking forward to that. I want to mention the offensive line. Most of the young men, Ross Edwards, Hudson Godfrey, Daniel Sandoval, Juice Lang, and Brannon Green. And I might have left out one or two. I apologize to offensive line coach Richard Katner, but most of those boys back from last year, so Llano certainly expecting a fine season for sure. Picked to win the district with Blanco, pick number 2 from the Texas Football Magazine, and number 3, Marion.
So tell me, I know that with Coach Green, his offense has a lot of run-pass options for the quarterback. Lots and lots of plays. Like I said before, I have an understanding of how they train up their quarterback starting in the 7th grade. Okay, and that's probably an interesting story there. Maybe we'll write that at some point. But when it comes to, because every coach says they want a balanced offense, except for maybe Marble Falls with the slot T. I don't think that I think they're looking to have 400 or 500 yards of total offense on the ground, maybe 20 to 30 yards in the air, right? Okay. I think Burnett, this is still my opinion to emphasize that, so not to get any of the coaches in trouble, I still think Burnett would like to go heavy run with Dash Denton if they can get their offensive line worked and get a combination that they like. I think they really like Dash Denton. How balanced do you see the Yellow Jackets wanting to be offensively?
Well, they were quite balanced last year, approximately 2,100 yards running the ball, and just about 1,900 passing from Maddox Green. So you can't get much better than that. And as I've mentioned in an earlier segment, Carson Kirkendall and Miguel Hernandez ran for about 1,600 yards total last year, and they're both back. So that will be exciting. And I want to mention the top receivers for Llano: Ross Prokop, Sam Sultanfuss, who might miss a game or two. He was injured in the San Diego game last year, the final game of the season for Llano, second game of the playoffs. Jackson Dillard and Coy Kelso. So some good receivers are back, and that makes it exciting too. And they will be receiving the ball from Briggs Green and Bryce Mize.
So with Llano wanting to be balanced, they also probably have the most experienced offensive line of any, except maybe Smoking for Jesus, even though in 6-man football, you know, you might get a couple of players who line up as linemen. Do you see anybody else, right? Because y'all got 5 returning starters back on the line, correct?
Well, if they weren't all starters, they got a lot of playing time.
Okay.
That I mentioned. Edwards, Godfrey, Sandoval, Juice Lang, Brannon Green, and Dylan Kennedy will probably play defensive line. He could also block on the offensive line. But whatever it is, it's just so many names, as we've been saying ever since last December, 19 out of 24 that are back, the top 24 from last year. So a lot of excitement there, no matter where you are with the ball, for sure. We'll miss Maddox Green, no doubt about it, but just looking forward to the season for sure.
Yeah. What makes it more fun for you? And why do you think the offensive line gels so well in Llano? What is their secret?
Well, I think certainly for this year, the fact that they've got so much experience. Okay. And I also applaud Richard Katner for the job he has done. This is his 3rd or 4th year, and most of the coaching staff has been around Llano for a while. But I think the world of Coach Katner, and so I think you've got to give him credit for sure.
What makes him such an effective offensive line coach?
Well, the running game has done so well that it seems like his linemen know how to split the rushers and to give room for those main two running backs to find space, and if it comes to a pass, which they certainly are schooled in quite a bit, they're able to pass block also. So he gets the credit for teaching that, because he'd get the blame if things didn't go well.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned earlier how much you enjoyed watching the slot T when at Liberty Hill. Brian Herman and Robert Draper is the Mustangs' offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. That's where they were. They learned the slot T off of Jerry Vance, or from Jerry Vance. It's his offense that Liberty Hill still runs it to this day. Their youth football teams still run it. Everybody in the 7th grade up runs the slot T. But what makes Robert Draper, to me, such an effective offensive line coach? He played the position, he understands the intricacies, and he knows how to communicate with the players. He seems to be able to get their best out of them. And there's no doubt, when you have a brand new starting five like Marble Falls will this year, we will learn a lot more about these kids and their coach and how quickly they can gel and learn together.
You mentioned Jerry Vance and the wizard of Liberty Hill, and I'll never forget he came around 2000 or 2001, and Llano beat him pretty good that first season, and then for the next 10 years, even though they won more games than they lost, Llano beat them twice. But what a terrific coach he was, and the way that he could coach that slot T, it was just outstanding. Okay.
I think we are done for this week. Like I said, we'll be all over the Highland Lakes watching Highland Lakes football. Hope to see y'all at some of these stadiums. For Art Dlugach, the voice of the Llano Yellow Jackets, I'm Jennifer Fierro, your broad podcaster here at the Highland Lakes. Please make sure you go to TexasChalkTalk.com to get all of your Highland Lakes sports news. And please make sure you like, subscribe, and share the channel. We'll catch you next week.